I was only making 35,000. Why did I even go to school? Like, I don't get it. I was just like, what the? Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Yvette. I'm a college advisor by day and a life coach by night. If you're new to my channel, I talk about career and life planning topics for young adults. So this is my story, kind of like a quarter life crisis, whichever one you would want to call it, but it was a hard time after I graduated from my master's. A little background about myself: I graduated with my bachelor's in sociology from SUNY Albany, and I also got my master's of social work from SUNY Albany as well. And I graduated in 2015. After I graduated, I was so hyped. I was applying to over 40 jobs a day. So when I finally got my first job, it was at a college as an academic advisor, and I was only making, wait for it. This is a little embarrassing, but at the end of the day, I'm only saying it because I think it will be helpful to others. You have to start somewhere. So I was making $35,000 a year. And at the time, I honestly wasn't even mad about it. Like, I was actually really excited. It was my first job outside of part-time gigs. This was my first full-time job with a salary. So I was super excited. And when I was in the job, I loved the work that I did or do as an academic advisor. It was perfect. That's the moment that I realized that this is what I really wanted to do. Quarter life crisis really started 6 months after I graduated. So I graduated in June. It started pretty much around October. I started to realize that my salary was low based on talking to my close friends and what they were making without a master's degree. So then when I realized that, I was just like, wait, now I feel like a fool because how I have a master's and I'm only making 35,000, you know? And mind you, I knew it was low, but it doesn't hit you until someone that you know is literally like, girl, I'm making way more than you and I only have a bachelor's degree, you know? So then I was like, all right, let me start applying to jobs. And I was only at that point maybe so it's July, August, September, October, 4 months into the job. So I was like, let me start applying for jobs. As soon as I started applying, I immediately started getting callbacks from other colleges in the area. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. Must have been the perfect time. I'm going on interviews and stuff. So again, I'm still super excited because I'm wow, I'm about to get a really good job. Then I got my current job now, and the salary that I got for this job was $45,000. I was so hyped. So again, I started off with the 35 and I knew that was low, but I was like, oh, is my first job. I have experience, but not really academic advising experience. At the time, I was doing a part-time per diem job here and there. But once I got my contract signed and everything for this new job, I quit that and I was like, you know what? No more doing two jobs. I'm just so happy to finally have this job that I could just work one job and get the money that I want to get. Little did I know that it was only going to be a $200 difference in my actual checks. So when I got my first check, it was the check that combined the other weeks. So it was a bigger check than normal. So I was super happy. Oh my God, it's the biggest check I got in my life. When I got the check that was going to be my 2-week check, that's when reality hit. Oh, wait. So I just left this job that I was making 35, thinking I'm coming here to make 10K more, almost 10K more. And I was only making $200 more in my checks. So that's when the post-grad depression and stuff, that's when it really hit, because the whole time when I was feeling it, I was still making moves. I was like, okay, cool. I'm just fresh out of college. This is just what it is. But then when that happened, I was like, oh yeah, this is depressing. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and that made things 100 times worse. It's an amazing book and I love it, and I'm glad that I did read it. I wish I would have read it earlier, in my freshman year of college. But it definitely made things worse in the sense that I just kind of felt everything was a lie. I was just what? Why did I even go to school? I don't get it. I just kind of felt my degree was pointless. It did make my depression, because it wasn't clinical depression, so I just want to make that clear. I wasn't clinically depressed. If you are experiencing clinical depression symptoms or anything like that, anxiety, I would highly, highly recommend seeking professional help. At the time, what I was going through, it was more a quarter life crisis or just a mind, I was just what the yeah, I was really frustrated. I was really like down. I just like couldn't understand why all the things I've done to this point didn't lead me to where I felt like I should be. I guess I don't know if that's considered like privilege, but it's kind of like when you feel like you worked hard enough, you kind of think that you would be in a certain place, you know? So I just felt like the fruits of my labor weren't really showing, and it just didn't make sense why I had put myself through schooling, extra schooling, to be at that point. So then I ended up starting to really think about what I wanted to do moving forward, being that what I thought would be making me enough money wasn't. So now I'm like, all right, do I change careers? Like, and mind you, I've always wanted to do what I do full time. So like, I never wanted to leave the job, but I wanted to try to find something on the side that would at least give me more money. And so then I started thinking about like nursing, like, oh, maybe I can be like a per diem nurse on the side, like get my nursing license, or maybe accounting. Like a lot of people I know who's doing accounting are making money, so let me just try that route. As crazy as I am, when I put my mind to something, I'm like, yeah, I'm doing this. Let me figure this out. I applied to community college because I knew at that point my job would pay for it. So I applied to the community college, and then I was assigned an academic advisor. I went to my academic advising meeting, which is funny looking back now because I like met with an advisor as an advisor. But I met with the academic advisor, and he just so happened to be a former accountant. And the crazy thing is, at that particular college, when you go for advising, it's just whoever, like whichever advisor is ready at the time. So whoever is done with their student, then you're next. So it was just God's plan for me to meet with this particular guy. So he's like, why do you want to do that? Like I told him I'm a full-time advisor, blah, blah. He's like, well, why would you want to go into accounting? And I'm like, because I just need more money. Like literally, like there's no passion behind it. There's nothing. Like I literally just need more money. And he's like, well, I used to be an accountant and I hated it. He was just telling me how stressed he was and how he was offered a promotion and he still didn't want the job. He was like, no, like I'm done with this job. I want to quit. Like I'm over it. He said he used to dream about like he make a mistake because you're working with people's money and stuff. So he was very like paranoid about that. And he seemed like a smart guy. And I'm just like, yeah, if you're saying this and you barely survived, like, I know I'm smart, but like, I don't like stress. And I'm not trying to like deal with that, you know? And he was just telling me like, you know, there is money in this field. Just get some experience and then apply to higher positions and you will be fine. Like he said, he knew an advisor making like 80K. Like she had just left their job and she got a new job and she was making like 80K. So I'm like, oh, okay. And then I just started focusing more on like housing. So I really wanted to move out and to get my own place. And that's when I got a part-time job again, because you remember I quit my job thinking I was going to make more. So that's when I got a part-time job and I was making a lot more with the part-time job. So it wasn't like my actual salary. Like I was making more than my salary because of the extra income. So that made me feel a little bit better. I knew long term, like, you know, I would just always try to make sure I either have a second income or just go higher in my field. But then the other problem was I didn't want to go too high in my field because I still wanted to be able to do advising work. And for the way my position works as an academic advisor, the higher you go, you become like an assistant director, associate director, and the less like advising you do, the more like administrative stuff you do. And I didn't want that at all. It was a lot of reality checks for me in the moment that was very discouraging. So like after reading Rich Dad Poor Dad and, you know, knowing that I wanted to move out, I went to a housing auction. If you've ever been to a housing auction, it's an experience. Like there were people going there with like bags of money in their hand ready, and little old me, I'm just there like, wow. And then they all knew each other, like, hey Belle, hey Jim, and I'm just there. And it was just like that reality check, like, you're broke. Like, no, you're like for real, you're real life broke. Like, and I never really realized that until I was like trying to progress, you know, in the adult world. So like when you're younger and you're doing these part-time jobs and all this stuff, like everybody's just like doing what they can. But then when you're an adult, you want to do adult things, you want to have adult things. Then it's just like the reality check of like, does my income, you know, allow this? And the answer was no, like a million times. That's when I ended up like saving and stuff, of course. Like I was always heavily saving after I paid off my loans. And then I decided to get a condo. And after that, things got a lot better because once I got my condo, I was able to do the Airbnb and stuff like that. I have videos on that, and I'll leave the links in the bio. And having that extra money along with my part-time job, that made things a lot better because, again, I wasn't making the salary that I was making. I was making a lot more than that with all the extra multiple streams of income. So that's when I really knew how important that was, especially because I've always wanted to keep my job. Like that was never really something that I debated. It was always like, I want to keep my full-time job. I just want to make more money. On social media, I realized how much is out there as far as like people living a really great life. And that's just not the reality for everyone. And it takes a while to get to where you want to be. And it took me a while to get to the comfort that I'm at right now. And so I just wanted to share this video so that people understand that even if you're not where you want to be, it takes time, but you will get there with hard work and dedication. Even though I realized I was broke at the time, I did save a lot. Like I was not doing anything. That's a whole nother video, but I was saving a lot. So that's why I was able to purchase the condo. The last little bits of advice that I would like to leave for anyone who's in this position, who's feeling, especially with things going on now in 2020, and I'm sure moving forward, it's going to be a lot harder to probably get a job, but don't let that discourage you. Make sure you are applying. If you graduated this year, congratulations. Keep pushing. I would also say talk to people and network. After joining social media recently, like this year, I realized how much information is out there, like Facebook groups, Instagram, all of that. Like there's just so much information. Sometimes it may seem overwhelming, but if you really take your time to research and talk to people, you will learn so much. So one thing that I didn't know, being a social worker, is that all the stuff that I wanted, I could have had back then if I would have known. So for example, being a per diem social worker in a hospital, I could have been doing what I thought I would be achieving as a nurse. So I thought like, I just want money. I want to do something per diem without realizing that I had the degree already to do that. My goal of making extra money could have came a lot quicker if I would have got my license and just started doing more work in the social work field. And last thing is to always have multiple streams of income. And this is no matter how much you're making. Make sure you are figuring out what your skills are and putting the pieces to that puzzle so that you can make more income as well. I hope this video helps someone or helps you. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave it down below. Take care. Bye.